The Galactic Dominion had ruled the stars for millennia. Empires had risen and fallen under their shadow, species had withered beneath their might, and the very laws of war had been dictated by their unchallenged supremacy. They were the apex predators of the galaxy. Or at least that's what they had always believed. Until they made a mistake. Until they declared war on a species they didn't understand. Until they tried to conquer Earth. And by the time they realized what they had done, it was already too late. The Dominion's first and final warning. The war began with a single transmission broadcasted across the entire galaxy. The Supreme Chancellor of the Dominion, High Lord Vraxis, stood before his people, tall, armored, his mandibles clicking with righteous fury. His voice echoed across the stars. The Terrans have violated our laws. They have refused our rule. They have defied the natural order. For this crime their world will burn. The message was sent to every major civilization. To the weak, it was a reminder of the Dominion's power. To the strong, it was a warning to stay out of their way. To humanity, it was the dumbest thing the Dominion had ever done. Because they weren't the predators in this war. They had just declared war on something worse. The first invasion, Earth's silence. The Dominion's war fleets arrived in Seoul expecting submission. They had brought 1,000 warships, each one capable of cracking planets and annihilating fleets. They had expected Earth to panic. They had expected Terran forces to scramble in desperation. Instead, they were greeted with silence. No surrender. No counter-transmission. Not even a single human message of defiance. Just cold, empty silence. Then without a word, the Dominion opened fire. Thousands of plasma lances, antimatter torpedoes, and kinetic strikes rained down on Earth's atmosphere. Their sensors confirmed the first waves hitting major cities. They waited for the destruction to begin. And that's when they realized nothing was happening. Their weapons weren't working. The shield that shouldn't exist. The Dominion's fleet commanders watched in stunned horror as every single one of their weapons vanished before impact. Their plasma bolts? Disintegrated mid-air. Their missiles? Redirected harmlessly into deep space. Their kinetic strikes? Dissolved into microscopic dust before hitting the ground. It was impossible. Earth had no recorded planetary defenses of this magnitude. No civilization, not even the oldest races of the Dominion, had technology that could simply erase an attack from existence. And yet, Earth stood untouched. A single human voice finally spoke over open channels. A woman's voice. Come. Amused. That was adorable. Then the Dominion's entire first invasion fleet blinked off their sensors. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Gone. And for the first time the Dominion felt fear. The galaxy watches in horror. The moment the invasion fleet disappeared, the galaxy went silent. Every Dominion-controlled species watched in confusion and disbelief. The Dominion had ruled for thousands of years, undefeated. And yet, in their first strike against humanity, they had lost 1,000 ships in less than 10 seconds. The Dominion's war analysts worked frantically to explain what had happened. It must be a planetary defense grid, they argued. Some form of quantum shielding. But no matter how much they analyzed the data, no answers came. The war should have been over in a single day. Instead, the Dominion had just awakened something they couldn't understand. Something that was already preparing to strike back. The first retaliation, the fall of Vorquan Prime. The Dominion's High Council convened an emergency session. They had ruled the galaxy with absolute certainty. They had never been on the defensive before. And now, they were facing an enemy that had just erased a fleet without explanation. High Lord Vraxis refused to believe it. Humanity cannot fight us, he snarled. They are primitives. Their world is insignificant. Their fleets are nothing before our might. A hollow, soulless laugh echoed through the council chamber. Every Dominion leader froze in place. Because that laugh had not come from any of them. It had come from the chamber's own encrypted transmission line. A human voice spoke. Come. Cold. Lethal. You call yourselves the apex predators? The council's blood ran cold. You think you understand what power is? They tried to trace the transmission to shut it down, but every system was locked in place. The human voice continued. Let's put that to the test. The screens flickered. A new image appeared. The Dominion's capital world, Vorquan Prime, was displayed in full view. From orbit. And then, it began to vanish. Not explode. Not burn. Vanish, sector by sector, city by city. Billions of Dominion citizens watched in horror as their world was erased from existence. The High Council could do nothing but scream. And then the human voice spoke one last time. Congratulations. You just started a war with the real apex predators. The transmission cut out. And across the entire galaxy, everyone realized the truth. Humanity was never prey. They were never the hunted. They were something else entirely. And now they were hunting back. The galaxy was silent. For the first time in history, the Dominion had been struck down. Not defeated in battle. Not repelled with resistance. Erased. Vorquan Prime, the capital of the Dominion, had been wiped from existence, its billions of citizens simply gone. No explosions. No wreckage. No war. Nothingness where a world had once been. And now the Dominion had a choice to make. Would they retreat? Would they negotiate? Would they beg for mercy? No. They would fight. Because they still didn't understand the horror they had awakened. And by the time they did, it would be far too late. The Dominion's counterattack. A futile effort. The Dominion had never lost before. Their species was born for conquest, their war fleets had crushed thousands of civilizations, and their empire had stood unchallenged for eons. They did not know how to surrender. So they did the only thing they could. They mobilized every remaining fleet. 5,000 dreadnoughts. 15,000 warships. Countless planetary assault carriers. It was the largest armada in the history of the galaxy. And it was all headed toward Earth. High Lord Vraxis himself stood on the command deck of the Dominion's flagship, his eyes filled with fury. No more tricks, he snarled. No more illusions. We will reduce this planet to ash. The entire fleet jumped to Sol in unison. Weapons primed. Engines roaring. And then, they saw it. And their blood ran cold. The battlefield was already decided. When the Dominion fleet arrived in Sol, they expected to see an enemy scrambling to defend itself. Instead, they saw nothing. No planetary defenses. No war fleets. No resistance. Earth simply floated beneath them, quiet and untouched. The Dominion fleet's commanders hesitated. Then their scanners picked up movement. Something was emerging from behind Jupiter's shadow. One ship. A single, sleek, black warship the size of a Dominion battleship. It drifted silently into the light, no energy readings, no communication signals. Nothing. Just cold, lifeless darkness. Vraxis laughed. One ship. That's all they have? Open fire. The fleet's entire first line of dreadnoughts unloaded. Thousands of antimatter warheads. Planet cracker plasma lances. Gravitic implosion cannons. They watched the ship vanish beneath the onslaught. A cloud of debris and fire filled the void. Their sensors confirmed it. Target destroyed. Silence. The ship reappeared. Untouched. Not damaged. Not shielded. Completely unaffected. A quiet, human voice spoke through every Dominion warship at once. That was adorable. And then, the war truly began. The hunt begins. The Dominion fleet's sensors glitched in unison. One by one, their ships began to vanish from existence. Not exploding. Not retreating. Just disappearing. Entire war formations blinked out of reality. Vraxis screamed orders, but no one responded. His fleet was being hunted. And then, for the first time, they saw the real Terran warships. Thousands of them. Not appearing from hyperspace. Not decloaking. They had always been there. Waiting. Watching. And now, they were striking back. The true apex predators. The Terran fleet did not fire traditional weapons. They did not engage in dogfights. They did not fight fair. Because apex predators do not fight their prey. They hunt them. The Dominion fleet's flagships turned to flee. A human voice echoed through their comms again. No. Every escape vector sealed shut. Wormholes collapsed before they could enter. Engines failed. The Dominion's forces screamed as their ships were plucked from space, one by one. Some were teleported into deep black holes. Some were folded into themselves, erased from history. Some simply vanished, their crews forever trapped in an endless void. This wasn't war. This was extermination. And at the center of it all, Vraxis watched in horror. His fleet, the largest ever assembled, was gone in minutes. The only ship left was his own. The last predator standing. His ship's lights flickered. His weapons were offline. His engines were dead. Then, across the void, a single Terran warship appeared before him. It was black as night, smooth as glass. And for the first time in his life, High Lord Vraxis felt true fear. A final human transmission played. A woman's voice. Come. Quiet. But now, with something different. Not amusement. Not curiosity. Something cold. Something predatory. You thought you were the apex predators? Vraxis trembled. You were wrong. A silent pulse of energy rippled through space. Vraxis's ship vanished. Not destroyed. Not captured. Gone. And with that, the war was over. Because there was no Dominion left to fight. The final message. Across the galaxy, every remaining Dominion-controlled species received a single transmission. It was simple. It was final. It was absolute. The war is over. The Dominion is no more. We do not conquer. We do not rule. But if any of you believe you are the new apex predators, the message paused. And then, in a voice that sent terror through every being in the galaxy, you are welcome to try. The signal cut out. The galaxy stood still. Because they finally understood. Humanity had never been prey. They had never been the hunted. They were something worse. Something beyond war. Something no empire, no species, no force in the universe would ever dare challenge again. They were the real apex predators. And now, the galaxy belonged to them. The war was over. The Dominion was gone. The species that had once ruled the galaxy through terror and conquest had been erased from existence. Not conquered. Not enslaved. Erased. And now, for the first time in millennia, the galaxy had no apex predator. At least that's what they hoped. Because the ones who had wiped out the Dominion were still watching, waiting. And the rest of the galaxy knew only one thing. Whatever came next, it would not be their choice to make. The fractured galaxy. The destruction of the Dominion sent shockwaves across the stars. Every surviving empire, every civilization that had once bowed before their rule, now stood at a crossroads. Some saw it as a blessing. Others saw it as a warning. And a few saw an opportunity. The power vacuum left behind by the Dominion's fall was too tempting to ignore. The Zarquin hierarchy, an empire of ruthless genetic supremacists, declared itself the new rulers of the galaxy, promising to restore order. The Sulvax coalition, a shadow empire of assassins and spies, saw a chance to strike, to seize power before humanity consolidated control. And the Avanti Accord, a federation of ancient species, gathered its forces in secret, hoping to open negotiations before it was too late. Because they all knew the truth. Humanity had just proven itself unstoppable. And the question now was simple. Would they rule the galaxy? Or would they leave it in ruins? The galaxy's first attempt at diplomacy. It was the first time humanity had been invited to the Galactic Council. They had never needed an invitation before. The council chamber, a massive sphere of floating platforms where the leaders of the surviving species gathered, was silent as humanity's representatives arrived. They did not bring an army. They did not bring weapons. They did not bring demands. They brought 3 people. 1 scientist, 1 strategist, 1 diplomat, and nothing else. The Zervan emissary, one of the oldest and wisest species in the galaxy, was the first to speak. Humans, he said, his voice carefully neutral. We welcome you to the council. The human diplomat, a woman named Elena Vasquez, simply smiled. Not kindly. Not cruelly. Just knowingly. And every species in the chamber felt the weight of it. She wasn't here to ask for permission. She was here to see if the galaxy was worth keeping. The silence stretched. Then the Zarquin hierarch stood, his chitinous exoskeleton clicking as he addressed her. Human, he sneered. You have proven your strength. But strength is not rule. What do you intend to do? Elena's smile grew wider. Do? She echoed. Nothing. A murmur spread through the chamber. The Zarquin slammed a fist onto the table. You cannot simply destroy the Dominion and expect no consequences. Elena's expression did not change. We didn't destroy them. The room froze. The Avanti ambassador leaned forward, his bioluminescent skin pulsing nervously. What do you mean? She tilted her head. We never fired a single shot. We never deployed a single soldier. We never sent a fleet. Her words hung in the air like a death sentence. The Dominion was given a choice. They chose wrong. Silence. For the first time, the galaxy understood the truth. The Dominion had not been defeated by superior technology. They had been erased by something far worse. Their own failure to adapt. The final warning. Elena's smile faded. She looked around the chamber, her gaze passing over every ruler, every emperor, every warlord who had come here expecting an answer. And then she gave them one. The galaxy is yours. We don't want it. The words shocked them. The Sulvax Grandmaster, a being made of living shadow, hissed in disbelief. You refuse dominion? After proving your superiority? Elena leaned forward. We don't need to rule. She gestured to the chamber around them. Because we know exactly what happens next. The council listened in uneasy silence. The Dominion thought they were at the top of the food chain. They thought they were predators. They thought they could challenge something greater. She let the words linger. Then she stood. If any of you make the same mistake, we won't warn you. We won't negotiate. We won't fight a war. She looked directly at the Zarquin hierarch. We will simply erase you. The chamber exploded into chaos. Some screamed in fear. Some raged in anger. Some simply sat in horrified silence, realizing what humanity truly was. Elena turned to leave. Before stepping through the exit, she paused one last time. Without looking back, she left them with a final message. Your fate is your own. Choose wisely. And with that, humanity vanished from galactic politics. The galaxy's final decision. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy stood still. The Zarquin abandoned their bid for power, realizing their fleets would be the next to disappear. The Sulvax, once the most feared assassins in the universe, sealed their borders, refusing to take any further risks. And the Avani? They did something no species had done before. They listened. Because for the first time in history, the galaxy had no apex predator. There was only the question. Would they choose peace? Or would they force humanity to remind them why the Dominion had disappeared? No one wanted to find out. So, for the first time in history, the galaxy chose silence. And humanity? They went home. Because there was nothing left worth hunting. Epilogue, the last transmission. Years later, a final message was sent from Earth. Not a warning. Not a demand. Just a simple statement. A truth the galaxy had to accept. We never wanted to rule. We only wanted to be left alone. Remember that. Because if we ever come back, it won't be to talk. The message ended. And across the stars, every empire, every species, every ruler understood. Humanity had not taken the throne. They had burned it to the ground. And no one would ever challenge them again. The galaxy was silent. For the first time in recorded history, there was no war. No empire dared to claim dominion over the stars. No species sought conquest. Because they all knew the truth now. Humanity was watching. They had erased the Dominion without lifting a finger. They had shattered the illusion of power every civilization had once believed in. And now, as they had promised, they had left. But that silence, that absence, was more terrifying than any war they could have fought. Because every empire knew, if they ever crossed the line again, humanity would return. And this time, they wouldn't leave anything behind. The last attempt at defiance. For a time, the galaxy remained on edge. Every empire, from the mighty Zarquin hierarchy to the shattered remnants of the Sulvax coalition, understood that humanity was not to be challenged. But there was one species, one last arrogant remnant of the old order, that refused to accept reality. The Drakthar warlords. A brutal race of warriors, the Drakthar had survived by conquest alone. They had no concept of diplomacy. No interest in negotiation. To them, power was simple. If you did not rule, you were prey. And so, in their infinite stupidity, they decided to test humanity's patience. The final mistake. The Drakthar sent a fleet to Sol. Not to invade. Not to conquer. But to provoke. They bombarded Mars, reducing its surface colonies to glass. They captured outlying human vessels, killing their crews, broadcasting their screams across the galactic network. They declared humanity weak, believing the predators had grown complacent. That was their final mistake. Because in that moment they stopped being an empire. They became prey. And humanity does not forgive prey. The return of the hunters. There was no grand announcement. No fleet deployments. No war declarations. One day the Drakthar fleet hovered over their homeworld, victorious, celebrating their supposed humiliation of humanity. The next day, they were gone. Not defeated. Not bombed into submission. Not invaded. Gone. The entire Drakthar species, every warlord, every colony, every outpost, simply ceased to exist. The galactic network erupted into chaos. Species scrambled for explanations. Had the humans used a planet-killer weapon? Had they deployed a new, unseen technology? Had they somehow wiped an entire species from reality itself? No one knew. Because no one had seen it happen. There had been no battle. No resistance. No survivors. The Drakthar were just gone. And in their place? A single message. Broadcasted across every known frequency. A message that the galaxy would never forget. The final warning. A black screen. Silence. Then the voice of a human. Come. Clear. We told you once. The galaxy froze. We told you twice. Every species listened in horror. There will not be a third time. The message cut out. And across the stars, every remaining empire, every warlord, every last remnant of those who had once sought power and dominance, fell into silence, because they finally understood the truth. There were no more apex predators. There was only humanity, and they did not share their throne. The end of the Galactic Age. With the Dominion gone, with the last would-be conquerors erased from existence, the galaxy changed. No one sought war. No one claimed dominance. Because now they knew the cost. The cost of testing the ones who watched from the dark. The cost of challenging the true apex predators of the stars. And so, for the first time in recorded history, the galaxy stayed quiet. Because they were no longer competing for power. They were simply trying to avoid extinction. Epilogue, the final evolution. Deep within the void, beyond the edges of mapped space, humanity had already moved on. They had left the galaxy to its own fate. Not out of mercy. Not out of disinterest. But because they had found something else. Something bigger. Something more worthy of their attention. Because the truth was simple. Predators evolve. And humanity? They had already outgrown this galaxy. As their fleets vanished into the unknown, they left behind one final truth. The one lesson that would define the stars for all eternity. The last words of humanity. The final human transmission ever recorded, spoken in a language older than any star, broadcasted across the void as the last Terran ships disappeared into deep space. We were never prey. We were never the hunted. We were always something else. And now, we hunt bigger things. The message ended. And humanity was never seen again.